you going, guys? Welcome. Right, today we've got a few special guests. We're still trying to get Jeff from the Hells Angels in Brisbane on the line, but we have with us Magic from Veterans Motorcycle Club and Chris from Alibi Legal. And we've got the hot topic at hand is well, there's a shove by Senior Constable Andrew Murphy, otherwise known as Raptor 13, applied on Veterans member Magic. And we posted the video last week, over the weekend, and it went viral and had a, yes, we'll just go back to it and check it out, so in case you missed it.
I wasn't asking, I was asking. I'm not asking, I'm telling you. Listen, hold on, I have not touched you. Alright, I have not touched you. I am moving it. Get on your bike. But you're not going to talk down to me. I'm talking directly to your face, move it. You're not going to talk down to me. I'm complying with your... I'm complying with your... Where do you want me to move it to?
Obviously, it invoked a huge reaction, and you can see why. Look, what we might do is we'll go to Chris first. Chris is from Alibi Legal. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you on the show. So, Chris, tell us about your involvement with the ride and how your interactions with the police.
Well, before I go there, I suppose I might start with a bit of my background. So essentially I'm a defence solicitor from Queensland. I work in predominantly criminal and administrative law. So that's where I really come into the bikie, I suppose, area of law, because it's not only criminal but it's also administrative. There's plenty of blokes that are affected by licensing decisions and things like that. So my background, I come into this is because I've been assisting many bike clubs around Queensland, understanding the laws. I've defended them against the laws. I've been successful with that. I've obtained cost orders against police for acting outside of their duties and being just general bullies and towards gang members, motorcycle members, and acting like they're gang members themselves. And it's just disgraceful what we're seeing in Queensland, and not only that, it's now spreading to New South Wales, it's going into South Australia. It seems like in the next couple of months it could be all over Australia. The injustices that I've seen in my practice are incredible. Most of the blokes that I've had to deal with, that just generally they just like motorbikes and they like the camaraderie of being a part of a subculture where everyone in their group of friends has similar interests. That's generally what they want to do. On the other hand, organised crime, just these terrible people, and frankly, I haven't seen any evidence of this. And the only people who will tell you how horrible bikies are the police. But then the weekend essentially shows, really shows what it's come to right now, particularly with Magic.
Yeah, there's certainly some pretty gross exhibitions of bullying on the police, and not just what happened with Magic, but there was also plenty of other examples that went on. And so, what one of the things that the police threatened the guys with was to use the full force of the consorting laws. Can you just explain to us what the consorting laws are and what we need to be aware of and how they can be applied?
Whereabouts exactly are you, Ben? First of all, because the consorting laws.
I'm in WA.
You're in WA. So now the problem with the consorting laws is that there's the consorting laws in New South Wales and then there's the consorting laws in Queensland. They're different. The Queensland laws in some way mimic the New South Wales one. The only thing that's really consistent with the two is that they both try and achieve the same thing, and that's to stop motorcycle enthusiasts hanging around motorcycle enthusiasts. That's really all they try. Now, things to be aware of in Queensland, for example, I might just put it on record that I'm not admitted to New South Wales, and I'm not overly familiar to an academic level of the consorting laws in New South Wales, but myself right now and some barristers that I work quite closely with are currently looking at the Queensland version of the consorting laws, extremely academic, and we've been extremely academically, and we've been doing this since it was announced in Parliament. So essentially in Queensland, it's an offence to habitually consort with two or more what they call as relevant offenders, recognised offenders, and that the consorting has to be at least on more than 2 occasions. So that's essentially the elements that need to be fulfilled in order to successfully be charged for consorting in Queensland. The issue with that is well, a recognised offender is somebody who's been convicted of an indictable offence which carries more than 5 years. So that's the way they've left that. But the way that the Queensland Police are currently applying the warnings that come around, for example, they're giving these warnings to people who don't have any criminal history, for example.
Sorry to interrupt. Given that's the case, how is an individual expected to know whether who they bump into at the pub and start having a talk with have a criminal record, and if they don't know, and can they still be charged under these consorting laws?
So essentially the police in Queensland have been going around to people regardless of if they're motorcycle enthusiasts or part of a motorcycle club, and they've been getting out essentially these warnings and it has a series of photographs of people that they say that person shouldn't be habitually consorting with, whatever that means. And that's the way that's been dealt with in Queensland. Now, I can happily say that no one's been charged yet in Queensland. Now, one of the biggest issues that I'm facing as a solicitor, and also speaking with people like yourself, Ben, is that people are wanting answers as to, if I do X, will the following consequence be Y? Currently in Queensland, we don't know. The reason why is because no one's been charged yet, and we haven't had any matters go. So everyone around on eggshells, I would suspect, because one of the biggest things that I've always been telling people since Vlad was that these laws just don't apply to bikies. They apply to absolutely everybody. And the offence in Queensland is the perfect example of this offence applying to everyone. Now, so in relation to how do these people know? Well, quite frankly, you need to go see a lawyer, or you need to read some legislation. That's what's happening in Queensland.
Just got Jeff on the phone. He's in a real bad area, so he's not going to be able to patch in live. So what we're going to do is we're going to call Jeff a bit later on. But yeah, it certainly becomes a murky area, and so one of the things that we saw on the weekend is that nobody knows exactly what they are, what the laws are, and the police seem to be able to arbitrarily enforce or use these laws as pressure to push some kind of agenda that we'll get to later on down the track when we have our discussion session. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about is there's politicians that are coming out and they're saying that any club members, and when they say members, that involves everybody. So that is anyone that's deemed an associate is held to the same account. And we had very clear. It was put in black and white by the police on the weekend, and this is in a video to come. So you'll see them saying this explicitly, that they intend to use these laws indiscriminately to push their own agenda, coming from what they say are their commanders. So stay tuned for that video. Look, well, I think we've got Magic back on the line. While we've got him, Chris, I'm just going to shit-can you for a moment, if you don't mind, and switch over to Magic and have a quick chat to him, because I think everybody's been waiting to hear your side of the story, mate. Obviously, you got shoved, didn't look good, video went viral. Now, what happened leading up to that? Can you tell us in your own words what happened?
Yeah, well, I'd just gone through the process, so they'd basically finished with me. I was walking away to going towards the hotel, and they called me back to move my bike. So I turned around, I walked back. As I approached the officers, I was attempting to ask, where do you want me to move the bike? Because they were very explicit that you couldn't step away from the bike, you couldn't do anything unless under instruction. As soon as I started to ask that, the officers started saying, you've been told to move your bike, now you move your bike under section. And at that point, Senior Constable Murphy comes over yelling at me, speaking over the top of me when I'm still trying to ask, you want me to move it? And it yeah, I was trying to get clarification of what they wanted me to do, because they wanted me to move the bike, but didn't say where I could move it to, whether there was another designated area where they wanted the bikes to go to. Because each time you went, there was like 3 or 4 stands, and you'd be moved from one stand to the next stand to the next stand.
Well, they claimed they were RBTing, drug testing, searching and defecting bikes. So just explain to us the process that you went through.
Well, initially they did a drug and alcohol test. So they swabbed you for drugs and got you to do a breath test. The next stand, they did a complete physical search. So you had to empty all your pockets, stand with your legs apart, arms in the air, and they did a full pat down. Which I sort of question under the circumstances, considering that we're a social motorcycle club. And then we were inspection
for these pat downs and these searches. We'll go to Chris on that one, but yeah, I understand. So how long did this whole process take, Chris, from when you get pulled up and to when the ride is able to proceed? Oh, sorry, we're back to you, Chris. Did you want to? Chris, do you want to just explain what the law is surrounding searches?
Well, you're right. Generally, in Queensland and New South Wales, they can search you if they've got reasons to suspect that you might have drugs on you, for example, that the bike is stolen. That, there's something unlawful that's happened. It needs to be more than just a mere suspicion. They need to be acting on something that they suspect. My understanding of the weekend was there was nothing about that at all. It was, we're just going to pull them over and then we're just going to search them just because we can. And then when I'm questioned about what power am I using to search, or what suspicion do I have to search, I'm just going to tell them that I'm suspicious, and that's good enough for me. That was my general understanding of how the weekend went. I was actually on the phone to some police officers while this was happening. About an hour in, I was called and I spoke to some police officers and asked them what they were doing. None of them were able to give me examples of the power that they were exercising, suspicion that they held in relation to anyone in particular. They mentioned that they were conducting an operation, but they were unable to tell me what the parameters of that operation was, or where they're getting their information or their powers to do the operation. What else did they fail to tell me? Basically, the only thing that they did say to me in any sort of certainty is that there is nothing that you're going to say to us. We're going to search everyone. We're going to hold everyone up, and we're just going to be a real pain. I told them that they've got safety issues. I was at that point, Michael, suspected it was on the side, and that had been there for an hour. The sad thing about this is it's not, if you can put all that aside, is the fact that the police really didn't have any sort of regard to the participants, as in who was there, their comfort or their safety. I raised a few issues about safety, which was completely rejected. I also asked whether or not water had been given out, and I knew that they hadn't given out water. I was told that was going to be the case. I was also told that there was only 20-odd bikes to go, and that they would be out very, very quickly. Now, that's a lie. It went on for another 3 hours after that conversation with me. So the other thing that I was very disappointed was... the one thing I was very disappointed was as well, I said, I told them that they're more than within their rights to breathalyse people, to drug test people, to have a quick look over their bike to make sure everything's compliant. But anything above that, and they're really starting to stretch. And the response that I received was, frankly, we don't care. We're going to do whatever we want to do.
And that's the video that we're going to see shortly down the track is not only evidence of that. They say in black and white that is their plan, and so there's elderly people there. There was women on the ride as well. I'm hearing about 4 hours with no water and no toilet breaks whatsoever. And Jeff, who was we're going to join on the phone shortly, was telling us that he's a diabetic, and so he needed both water and to go to the toilet to flush ketones, what have you. And he was denied this. He had no choice. He had to go to the toilet, and he was arrested at that point. So we'll hear more from Jeff about what happened there. But yeah, so just while we've got Magic back, Magic, can you tell us what's happened since then, since the incident?
Since the incident, well, I reported the incident to Inspector Connor, who is the senior person in charge of the operation. And then I've filed a letter of complaint through the New South Wales Police processes to the New South Wales Police. And I've also submitted the same complaint to the LEC, which is the Crime and Maladministration Oversight, an independent body of the New South Wales Police. It was done on Sunday, in all fairness. You're asking me before about self. What's most disturbing about this is I was trying to ask directions, and when this Senior Constable Murphy continued to approach me, I stopped. I leaned towards him and I said, "You will not disrespect me." Right? I didn't say these words, but I'm a veteran. I was sent overseas by our government to defend people who are oppressed and to protect the human rights of individuals over there. And he's abusing my human rights. That's what the implication is. You will not disrespect me. I looked him in the eye and I just saw his eyes. You could see he snapped.
Obviously, you're an elderly man. I understand you served in Iraq. You're back here on a medical discharge, and this young upstart, Raptor 13, has gone and shoved you in the chest, and has certainly made headlines around the country. It's not an isolated incident from this particular constable. There's plenty of them. However, he's not the only one. It's not just him, and it's a directive from above, and we've got clear evidence of that in a video that I'm going to show shortly. That's what their clear plan is, and we've got stories from different rides all over the place where some of them, in some cases, held down, made to lay on their stomachs with their hands cable tied behind their backs for 4 hours at a time, and for no other reason. The reason given is that they disrupt their activities. Now, they're not breaking any laws. If they were breaking a law, they'd been charged with a law. Under these circumstances, there were no laws broken and there were no charges laid. The police are clearly being heavy-handed. We'll just take a look at one of the videos of the Good as Gold current run. So this is just to show you basically what happened at one of the stops. And you'll see there's probably, well, there's more police there than there is motorcycle riders.
Provisions of the Road Transport Act. I'm giving you a direction to stay next to your motorcycles. Do not leave your motorcycles.
Righto, G.I. Jane, mate. Fuck off.
You're not intimidated, don't worry about it.
Oh, could have been. My feelings could have been.
It's all about safety for us and for you guys.
I left them at home, so it's alright.
Mate, it's a licence, rego, breath test. They're going to go through your life.
Do whatever you
Make
want.
sure that they're all legal.
Yeah, do it. Cool, it is what it is.
I can.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty out there. Look, I'm just going to go back to Magic for a second. Have we still got you there, Magic?
Yep, I'm here. Well, last year I was on the Good as Gold. There was a police presence, but it was just following, videoing the normal run-of-the-mill. They didn't interfere with the event at all, and it was a good event. This year we had 97 registered riders, all social motorcycle members, coming along to support the charity run. No, there were 3 incidences of assault, by the definition of assault. There was another incident of attempted theft of personal property by a police officer when the person tried to retrieve his property, and there was a bit of a tug of war going on over it. The officer then reached for his gun. So here you go, fellas. If you've got a gun, you can steal whatever you like.
Tony that was on the run didn't actually make the ride. He got RBT'd before the ride and they refused to show him his blood and alcohol reading. He gets this letter presented to him and shows that he's well under the legal limit. However, they carted him away in a paddy wagon. And so we'll just have a look at one of the old Good as Gold videos. This is back in 2011, and just check it out, and you can see what these rides were back in the day when everybody was having a great time and the police were respectful about their duties. They still charge people that broke the law, but they were respectful about their duties. So we'll go to that now.
There is another story I can tell you, Ben. Yeah.
All right, we're dialing Jeff now. Have I got you, Jeff? Can you hear me, buddy? Jeff, can you hear me?
Yeah, mate, I can hear you, yes.
Hear me, good. Okay, cool. All right, so Jeff, just obviously you're a Hells Angel member from Brisbane, and what happened on the weekend, mate?
Well, where do you want me to start with all that? So, basically, you know, we went to put on a charity event like we have for the last 26 years, and whilst trying to do that, Queensland's finest and New South Wales finest, as in the 2 task squads, decided to absolutely show no respect for the law which these guys create, and pretty much shut the ride down, or attempted to.
Yeah, so so you said there was Queensland and New South Wales police force there.
Yeah, mate, yeah. So
we had Raptor,
yeah,
Maxima.
Yep.
I saw the feds there, AFP.
Yes, federal police were there, yep.
Who else do you have? Is there any police they didn't involve?
I'm not sure, mate. They had the forensic units there. They had the drug people there as well. They had no, from what I could see, no one there, like from the Department of Transport, acts there, confirming what they're doing to the bikes as well. I didn't see them there. I don't see why. They had everyone else there, you know.
Yeah. So it seemed. How many cops do you reckon there were there all up?
Look, from my sort of recollection, mate, whilst I was busy also being arrested there at the time, I believe there was at least, I'd say 50 plus.
And how many riders were on the ride?
There was just 100.
So 2 to 1, yeah. Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty full on policing,
Isn't it? Yeah.
So you said you were arrested. Tell us about that. What happened there?
Oh yes, I was also arrested. So once we left the ride, well, start of all, we were approached, you know, in Queensland by Raptor, pretty much trying to threaten and intimidate us about the ride and what they were going to do, seizing things like the raffles if we were to do that. Apparently, you know, they're going to do, even though we haven't decided on the charity yet, we decided to proceed with the ride anyway. We were met in Wollongong with a full force of them, excessive force, I believe, and unnecessary force. We sat there for probably a good 40 minutes. The ride took us an hour and a half, as it does. They started processing people. They left me sit there. Even though I was at the front of the pack, they decided to let me sit there. They processed numerous people prior to me. I turned to him and said, listen, I need to go to the toilet. I understand we're being detained for, the likes of license checks, breathalyzer, drug tests. I understand all that. I said, but I really need to go to the toilet. Who was going to escort me? They told me to stay near my bike. I'm not to move. I told them I was diabetic. I need to go to the toilet when I need to go. Like people who have diabetes can't hold on to their bowels as much as normal people can. It's due to the medication we're on. I asked them twice, could they please get someone to escort me? They said no. So I said, I'm going to the toilet anyway. And then I was arrested for it. Yeah.
It's pretty out there stuff. The
Oh, very much so.
So going back, I also, and I harked to a video that we're going to play shortly. They talked about seizing the charity money as well, and any donations for charity.
Yes, mate, they did. So when we were at the venue, the whole event with the ride is so people sign on. It gives them a chance to win something as well, which is kindly donated by, businesses around the local area who support the charities and what we do. We've been doing this for 26 years. So whilst we're at the start of the event, I was approached by, I think it was 10 or 12 task force, which both included Maxima and Raptor. I'm not sure why they were doing it in Queensland anyway. I'm not sure where their boundaries lie. Apparently there is none with the border. They just tried to tell me that if we proceed to try to do anything in New South Wales, that they will confiscate the items and anything processed from that. And I believe that would intake the money raised. I'm guessing that's what he. I mean,
Jeff, I'll just interrupt you there. I can tell you straight up that sounds like bullshit, right? However,
100%,
we've got the video. People just won't believe that this has happened. We're living in a country where the police can steal charity money just to harass people because we'll get to it later in the discussions. But they're also trying to cut off every legitimate income stream that members of the motorcycling community have, and so that includes not only members of clubs, so official 1% club members, but anyone that's deemed an associate. So that is anyone.
100%, mate. 100%.
Right, I'm going to throw straight over this video and check this out, guys. This is really well worth a watch.
These are the ground rules. New South Wales. Okay. There will be a set up where you'll be tested, breath tested, drug tested. Cool. All right. You'll have all your bikes examined. Cool. Okay. If there's 1%ers with you, they've already been told that they won't be allowed in any pubs outside of the border. That's cool. Okay. If there's a fundraising occur and there's no fundraising authority with it, we can seize any profit or any prize that goes with that if you don't have the proper authority to fundraise. Okay.
What do you mean by that, though?
Well, mate, I'll tell you, but just drop the attitude a bit.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, what do you mean by that?
In New South Wales, you have to have an authority to fundraise.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't have it, then you can't fundraise in New South Wales.
Okay. So we're not doing that anyway, then.
Okay. So if you're not doing it, then it's fine. All right. But if it happens in New South Wales, we have the power to seize anything in relation to that fundraising. Okay. And anything in relation to prizes or anything like that. Right? This is all us saying. If you want to come across the border, this is what's going to happen. Okay. In New South Wales, we obviously have very different legislation, and we intend to enforce that, especially if there's 1%ers within your group. If there's not 1%ers within your group, you'll probably find that we will not be involved in anything. As soon as we see colours, our boss is saying there are no runs in New South Wales. Okay, if there's 1%ers in your group, everyone will be treated as 1%ers. If there's no 1%ers in your group, you'll pretty much you'll get stopped, you'll get breath tested, you'll be on your way.
And what if there are?
Then everyone will get treated the same. Everyone will get drug tested, everyone will get breath tested, everyone's bike
everyone's clean anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I'm telling you.
You've got to do what you've got to do.
All right,
everyone's bike. Letting you know what we intend to do.
You've got to do what you've got to do, all right? And we're going to do what we're going to do.
That's cool.
So we'll be fair, you be fair.
Well, that's fine. Well, that's what we're saying. There will be a different level. If there's 1%ers there.
Well, there is. I'm telling you.
Okay. Well, then.
So do what you need to do with us.
Okay. Because
that's cool.
From the commanders of New South Wales, we don't want runs in our state. Okay.
Oh, unlucky.
Unlucky? Okay, well then you will feel the full force of the consorting law and everyone will be searched.
That's cool.
Okay.
That's fine. You've got to do what you've got to do,
From a Queensland perspective, we will enforce all traffic laws. Okay, in this state.
We know that.
You're required to stop at every red light.
We know that.
Okay.
Yep, cool. Everyone's been told, been advertised on the things, don't bring dodgy bikes, no helmets, all that shit, right?
Yep.
So we know.
Yep,
It's
that's
cool.
fine.
If
Yep.
people are doing it, grab them.
Yep, that's fine.
Whatever you got to do.
Just do the right thing and
That's cool.
advise you guys before you kick off.
Yeah,
okay?
it's cool. Whatever you've got to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's that is pretty hard-hitting stuff. I'm just going to throw it out there to you guys on Facebook. If you've got any questions about this or anything that you want to ask Jeff from the Angels, Chris from Alibi Legal, or even Magic himself about the incident, shoot us a message. I've got somebody watching the Facebook for us, and they can answer your questions. And we're going to throw it open to discussion shortly. But while I've still got Jeff on the phone, look, can you please, the police are saying on that that they want to stop any runs in New South Wales, and they've got a clear directive from the commanders, whoever they are. I didn't know we lived under rule where there's commanders. But just demystify this for us a little bit. What happens on these runs?
Well, basically, mate, the runs, the thought process in behind these runs is a pretty simple one. It's to raise money for various charities. That on these runs, mate, that's basically what it is. It's sort of like-minded people who love riding bikes. I work behind the scenes. I go the rides. I pick the good rides. We make sure we're right. We check the roads. We check conditions. We check all these things. On the rides, mate, basically, when we stop at a couple of venues, people have a beer, a meal, because all the venues provide food, this, that, which we've already pre-organised. And basically, blokes just talk women. We have a large number of more women showing these rides now, which is really good to see. And mate, basically, people just cut the cheese, mate, talk shit, like just what blokes do on these rides. They just camaraderie, that's what it is. It's like-minded people going for a ride for a common cause, and this is like at a charity event. I don't know what else to tell you. There's nothing else much that goes on these rides except, we go for a good ride. That's it. People that like bikes, mate.
Yeah, I know. Look, I understand. It's just for those out there that don't. You go on these rides and you see, especially you go through the country towns and the streets are just lined with kids and families, and everybody gets a wave, and you stop and support local businesses along the way, and which is a good point. There's a lot of small country hotels that really survive off these things coming through. You call them in advance. You let them know we're coming. They whack on another 100 meat pies and they're there. And look, it's not a matter of everybody getting smashed at a pub. Everybody comes through, has one drink and a nibble to eat, and it's an awesome day's taking for those pubs. But what happened to the pubs in New South Wales on this ride?
Okay, so basically, like I say, we also don't condone anyone getting intoxicated, right? Because this ride is an event where this ride also has been event and incident free for over 26 years, right? The time we stop at these little pubs is an hour. That includes arriving, getting off, getting ready, having a feed, couple of beers, maybe one or two beers, and then off we go. So these pubs that we go and see. We go see the publicans and talk to them, and I let them know, give them my details, just let them know, what the event's about, how long we're going to be here for, and it's hard to give them approximate numbers these days due to the laws. The numbers have dwindled. The police harassment have contributed to the numbers dwindling away. From pre-2013, we would get numbers of 400 to 600 plus. Since the laws come in, we're lucky to get 100, if that.
Yeah. So I saw, this is my understanding, and from the interview there, that the police, New South Wales Police, took it upon themselves to go to local publicans that may have been by the ride, and threaten them with liquor licensing laws to make sure that they didn't let anybody in the pub. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100% it is. So not just the police. It was also liquor licensing division in Tweed Heads. I believe a guy, his name's Simon there, that works for him. He also proceeded to ring the venues up and basically threaten them that if they allow us or even serve us, that their venue will come under undue scrutiny and a fine-tooth comb will be put over their establishment. That's what they were told.
Yeah. Look.
Yeah.
I might, if we can switch back to Chris there, and I'm just going to get a comment from Chris on that, because, you know, like the police are obviously way overstepping their boundaries there, like threatening businesses to not even enforce the law, but threatening them with liquor licensing laws that are out of their jurisdiction, but to serve another purpose and to basically just stuff your day up, really. That's what it's about.
Well, it is, Ben. The other thing that is really concerning on this, so these people here are the regulators, correct? Like, these guys sit around a boardroom table coming up with all these
anything
laws,
other than
so they go ahead and do that.
Standing over small businesses and putting more pressure on the people that they have a vendetta against.
Rules that they set out. But yeah, this is still the scrutiny and
any other group other
the
than
attention that we get. Even though these guys set these rules out to do
from those actions, because they are criminal. To go into a business and say that if you serve this type of person or you serve these group of people, then we're going to make sure that your business suffers because of this. That's extortion, as far as I'm concerned. And is this really the way that we want our police to behave? If there's an issue of licensing, well, you know what? It can be backed up by legislation, and it can also be enforced by the proper authorities, the people who deal with liquor licensing, for example, who are running around and trying to ruin a charity event.
Sure, it's bullying. That's what it is. It's bullying. And we've seen it, you know, we've seen the massive examples of it. I've got a question. I've got a Facebook comment here from Faye Willie saying, so one corrupt cop means they're all corrupt, right? I'm going to get you to respond to that, Jeff, if you would. Have I got you there, Jeff? Jeff, can you respond to that? Did you catch that comment? Sorry, mate. Sorry, I had you turned down. Have I got you there, Jeff? Hello. I can't hear him.
Mate.
Sorry, got him there now. Yeah, okay.
Got him. Yeah,
sorry. Yeah, mate. I've got a comment on Facebook from Faye Willie saying, so one corrupt cop means they're all corrupt, right? I think what she's referring to is that one cop that pushed Magic, and we're inferring that they're all corrupt.
No, 100% not. No, definitely not. The thing is, until someone comes along on one of these rides, or goes with like some social clubs that get harassed, you're not really going to understand what happens. We're not saying all cops are bad, and we're not saying that they all are corrupt. But when you come along one of these rides, and I encourage people to come along, they will see themselves what sort of treatment people are given.
Absolutely, and the rides are open to everybody, right?
100% they are. Everybody. We've in previous years invited politicians to come along, ministers to come along, because that's how passionate we are about these charity runs, but they obviously always decline.
So we're being told by politicians that breaking the law, we have nothing to worry about, and that these laws are specifically to target outlaw criminal motorcycle gangs, and that it's not going to affect Joe Blow, but we can clearly see that that's not the case. Is that right?
Oh, 100%, mate. When I asked one of the commanders there, why are we doing all this, and they're searching everyone, patting everyone down, they simply said to me, oh, that's a case-by-case scenario. I said, okay. So when we left Greens Road there, we went for a ride all the way down there, an hour and a half. I asked them from that point there to there, these people did arouse their suspicions to warrant to be searched and pat down. They just told me they didn't want to comment to that. Also, while everyone's sitting there for an hour, 2 to 3 hours, I asked them again, because I sat there the whole time with everyone, what have these people done to make it be a case-by-case scenario here for them to warrant, to them to search them and pat them down? They didn't give me an answer.
Yeah, sure. And it's, I don't think, look, that one cop has certainly drawn a lot of attention to himself because he is a real dick, right? But but I think clearly there's a directive coming from above that points to a way broader issue than just just one cop shoving one veteran.
100%. Yep.
So why is it happening? Why do you think this is happening? Why do you think you guys are being targeted?
Well, look, I don't know. Someone's obviously dislikes us, obviously. I don't know why. Look, at the end of the day, look, everyone's got to focus on this. Yes, that so-called Murphy is a bad cop, right? Obviously, his actions speak for himself. I don't need to comment on any of that. People got to remember this, though. He's not the only police officer that abused his powers. The police officer that also arrested me started trying to whisper in my ear that if I continued to do my bad behaviour or my bad attitude, that him and I apparently going back to the watch house to get quite acquainted. So I said, cool, I'm happy with that too, mate. So it's not just the one police officer we're dealing with here. It's multiples of them that seem to have this power trip and use it as they see fit.
Yeah, yep. And what concerns me more is the directive that come clearly from above. That statement where Raptor 12 said in that video, what was it exactly? Our commanders have told us we're not having any runs in New South Wales. So we've come a long way, or we've gone a long way backwards in our society, where we now have a police force that think they can use the law to direct social behaviour, and this is a dangerous and a slippery slope. I think I'm going to cross back to Chris to talk about what the implications of that can be for society, because the obviously civil libertarians jump right on these things, and people go, the goody two shoes, don't want to hurt any people, but this has some real serious implications for the broader community. And Chris, I'd invite you to talk about that for a second, if you could.
Yeah, no worries. No, so you've hit the nail on the head with that one, because I'm a civil libertarian. I'm a board member for the Queensland Council of Civil Liberties, and that's what I get out of this. I don't have a motorcycle, but I'm incredibly interested in this, because the implication that flows from this is that it affects everyone. Now, if you're talking about social consequences of people not being able to associate with each other, well, how long do you have? Because if you've got the next couple of days, we can talk about this for that amount of time, because we need to associate each other. We need to have friends, and we need to have families. We find those mates and the friends and the family, we find them in different circles. So motorcycle enthusiasts, they just happen to find them in motorcycles. Everyone's got their thing that they enjoy and they want to do with other people. So if you can't associate with others, you live a miserable existence. Now, one of the biggest things and the biggest criticisms that I have in relation to not being able to associate, and I brought this up in when the consorting laws were first being spoken about by Parliament, was particularly with the consorting laws, making it an offence for people who have criminal history to hang around with people who have criminal history. So, for example, a person goes to jail. When he comes out of jail, he needs a strong support network. He needs friends and family who can support him and get his life back on track. Now, the statistics show that people who go to jail and then come out the other end tend to be friends or have family with people who have also gone to jail, for example. So essentially what you're asking the people to do is to come out of prison and then completely ostracise themselves from anyone they ever knew and live a miserable existence alone. Of course that person's going to find them either addicted to drugs, alcohol, back in prison, because you're tearing down support networks. That's where I see where this is going. So I know that's a little bit far removed from motorcycle enthusiasts, but that's where I envision civil liberties are going, because that's what's happening. They're tearing down support networks, they're tearing down relationships, friends, families, all of that, and they're doing it under the facade of, we don't like a few bikies. And that's just unacceptable in my view.
So
I don't want to live in a world like that.
Yeah, well, the thing that gets me, say they're successful and they ban motorcycle clubs, and there are no motorcycle clubs, or say for instance there wasn't any motorcycles in the first place. Motorcycle clubs and their friends all still exist. They've destroyed motorcycle clubs. So what are they going to do with them? And I'll point out as well, they would have to be the single most scrutinised minority in the whole country. Yet, if they're so heavily scrutinised and they are breaking the law and selling drugs to our kids or whatever the claims are, why not charge them with those offences? It's certainly not as if they couldn't gather the evidence, because they've got the amount of technology they have out now, and I just think, going back to the civil libertarian aspect, I think that's what it's all about. It's like if we have one minority that can stand up to the government and not be told what to do and how to behave, then everybody might do that, and it's a worry for them.
I've got some points to make here.
Well, I'd love to hear from you, actually, Magic. So
Yep.
we'll shoot across to Magic, who's got a couple of things to say. Let's go, mate.
I was medically evacuated out of Iraq and then subsequently discharged due to my injuries. It was the Vietnam Veterans Motorcycle Club and the old guys there that said, we need to be looking after these guys. They've gone through what we went through. And they were instrumental in helping me get my life more stable. We're talking about, corrupt cops. Are they all corrupt? No, definitely not. The majority of police officers are quite professional and usually very courteous and considerate. They'll empathise with situations if they understand them. However, it seems that even in the 1% community, that they've all been tarred with the one brush because of a few hotheads. And the incidents that came to light were basically disputes between two blokes over a woman. And it got the whole 1% world got dragged into it. Now, a professor from a university, who's a professor in criminology, came online and he said that more than 80% of the 1% community do not have any criminal records. Now, not all clubs are the same within the 1% community. Not all chapters within the same club are the same. So if you're going to say, well, one or two rogue crops or bent crops, whatever, doesn't tarnish their record, why are they then turning around and saying all 1%ers are, not worthy of human rights? These guys are normal people with families, jobs, etc., etc. I find this completely unfathomable.
They now seem to be extending that.
One more point to make.
Sorry, you go.
Yeah, there's just one more point to make. Now, a case was taken to the High Court where the police were asked to produce the evidence which says that these organisations are criminal organisations. And the police said, that's all confidential. So they were not prepared to even provide that information to the High Court judges to justify their classification of these 1% clubs as criminal organisations. In my opinion, there's probably more criminals in the police force than there are in the 1% community.
Yeah, it's the burden of proof. So that now, if you're a member of a declared organisation, you are now presumed guilty, and it's up to you to prove your innocence. And some of the things that happened with the implementation of the Vlad laws in Queensland were they gained worldwide attention for just how simply unfair they were. They enacted some anti-association laws retrospectively, seized footage from a hotel where three people were congregated. It was a husband, a wife and the brother-in-law, I believe, and those three got solitary confinement, 23 hours a day, 1 meal a day, because they found this footage in the future and enacted these laws retrospectively. I'll just having a look on Facebook. We've got a heap of shout-outs, and I've just lost where I was up to, but there's a comment there from Dan Lutz. Corruption at its finest. I'm so sick of the police in Australia. These days, if you own a Harley, it's a ticket to get harassed and pulled over every week. I've got nothing but lies from my interactions with the police. And they're fairly common, indicative of the comments that we're getting. Like everybody's pretty much had a guts full of what's going on at the moment, and it's time that we educated those around us to let them know that what's happening is really unfair. It's targeted. I've got still got Jeff from the Hells Angels Brisbane on the line. We'll bring Jeff up in a second. Jeff, can you hear me there?
Yes, mate, I can hear you. Yeah.
Jeff, I believe some of your friends were threatened with the consorting laws for associating with you. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, not just only threatened, they were issued notices, yes.
And do you have a criminal record, Jeff?
No, mate, I do not.
So it sort of flies in the face of what we're hearing all through the media, that all bikies are criminals. So I have no doubt, we saw what happened on the weekend. You've certainly been the subject of a fair amount of harassment. I'm sure there's been raids and what have you, and they've come up empty. Yes. So you've got no convictions.
Can we, you know, you just spoke about the raids. Okay, so you want to talk about undue or unfairness. I can tell you back after the ride, after 2015, when we had a ride, 2 weeks later, my property was raided by Maxima and a tactical response team. Full force, by gun, entry point, kicked my doors in. I wasn't even home, but my missus and our 3-year-old kid was at home. At gunpoint, that house was kicked in. At gunpoint, over me attending and going on a charity ride. So where do these lab laws, or what magistrate on something like that to go ahead after all we done was a charity ride, and they got me charged me with an association. That's it. No violent crimes, no weapons involved, no nothing. Just simply going on a ride.
Chris. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, Jeff.
You right, mate? All good. Yep.
Yeah, mate, I feel the rage, and the country feels the rage. I'm just going to switch over to Chris. He's got to take off. Chris, thanks a whole bunch for coming. I know you had court and all those things that you busy lawyer types do, but has been awesome to have you along, and maybe you can join us another time when we have a chat.
I'd love to come back. Just let me know, and I'll be back on. And if people want to share questions over Facebook in the meantime, I'm more than happy to answer those in the future.
Yeah, awesome. Very much appreciate it. So go back to Jeff. I'm sure, Jeff, you've got 100 stories you could tell us.
Oh, definitely.
And I don't want to delve into your personal business, and I don't want you to say anything that you're not allowed to say or that isn't cool. But there's no clubhouses left in Queensland. Is that correct?
They say to us that because they're prescribed premises. If we even step foot on the driveway, we can have a mandatory 6 months jail.
So, but these are premises you guys own personally?
Some we own, and some that we rent. So we're no longer allowed in there.
Yeah, it's draconian, and I don't think that the greater population realises exactly what's going on.
No, definitely not. With the consorting that you're asking the question before, two guys were received just a short little ticketed notice about a consorting with me. They said I'm a recognised offender, and I am not. I have not got a criminal record at all. We have got it on footage where they served these two people. And see, the worrying thing also is, this police force is supposed to be educated on these laws too. They can just willy-nilly go out there and ticket all these people, and then basically what happens is, if they're wrong, not that they don't get any consequences, just like, oh well, that was wrong, and it gets retracted.
Yeah, sure. No, there is no consequence, and there's a message up here on Facebook from Mick Devine. How you going, Mick? Mick saying, where are the discrimination laws? And it's an interesting point. There's plenty of implemented indiscriminately to target motorcycle clubs, and it's they've attacked you from every angle. We've had members that have been extradited through the extradition laws that were brought in under the guise of anti-terror. One high-profile one was Dusty Martin's old man. Only one. This is not an isolated case. There's I have a friend over here in WA that was moved to Australia when he was 7 years old from England. He has a wife here, 2 kids here. 4 kids here, and they just picked him up and sent him back home, sent him straight to detention. So when I say back home, back to England. And this is a guy in his 60s. And this is how. So our government tells us that we need these laws. They scare the people, saying that, hey, we've got terrorists coming into our country. We need some mechanism to be able to send them back. And the people will stick their hand up and go, yeah, I'm going to vote in that law because I hate Muslims. I'm going to vote that law in. And that... not realising that these laws apply to everybody. It could be your next door neighbour. It could be your friend over the street. That there's a whole bunch of Kiwis here that don't feel like they need to be nationalised. You know what I mean? And We've got Alex Valla, high-profile case sent back to Malta. You know, like he's quite a big businessman, and he's the president of the Rebels, and he's still in Malta now. Can't get back in the country. Dusty Martin's old man. They overturned his deportation order. However, they're using some immigration bill to stop him coming back in the country. And this is a guy that's only got old charges, and which another point that I'd like to bring up. Jeff, I'm sure you can help me out with this one. But they're talking about banning clubs because they're bad, and whatever their reasons are, selling drugs to the kids, whatever they keep on saying. It's the same old thing that we keep hearing from the politicians. But a lot of those guys were black sheep of the family, or they were on the wrong side of the law, and when they found the club, turned their life around, because suddenly they found, for the first time in their life, they found structure, they found discipline, they found a hierarchy, they found something much like what some young guys find when they go to the army. I'm sure you could share plenty of those stories.
Oh, definitely, 100%. We have a lot of people that come around that, mate. We've had people that are, suicidal, things that, work, home relationships, all these things, they just spiral out of control. So a lot of time they don't know where to turn. And sometimes they fall in our lap, and then they start seeing that, well, there's more to life, than just doing what they're doing, you know what I mean? The structure, we have structure, obviously. Yeah, like I know heaps of people that have said, if it wasn't for a club, and I'm not talking just members here, I'm talking people that have found their way around us, like via friends and this and that, and they've had interactions with all of us, and they've been able to see where, and I'm not saying just our club, like other clubs, football clubs, this and that, a lot of people do a lot of good, a lot of people see things and they fit, what I mean? There's something's clicked, like the light bulb's going on or something, I don't know. But yeah, 100%.
And it's just they find their place in the world, and and it's and in a way it's a kind of a rehabilitation for them. It keeps them on the straight and narrow, and it gives them what they need.
Well, 100% is, and they see, like, we don't condone going out and getting plastered at fucking nightclubs or pubs and causing shit and this and that. Like, they see that sort of thing, they're like, wow, they never thought that. They just thought, the complete opposite, and what they were told by the big propaganda wheel, by the media, and all these sorts of things. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And there's a massive double standard. So on the one hand, they're saying bikie clubs are bad and blah blah blah. You don't want them in your pub. You can't have them in your pub, but they can't go and drink in their own shed. They're not allowed to get together and drink in their own shed. They're they're all criminals. They're all making money selling drugs. Yet they're not allowed to be bouncers. They're not allowed to be tattoo artists. Campbell Newman, tow trucks. The Campbell Newman government tried to bring in that they weren't allowed to be tradesmen.
100%. And I'm a tradesman myself.
Did that come through, that law? Is that a thing?
It's not that. I don't know whether the law came through on them as such, but I do know that a lot of people lost their livelihoods. The motor dealership license and stuff like that, they were all revoked because we didn't fit a character test apparently. Yet I know personally someone that had a motorcycle dealership. He had to then lay off the employees that he had. They all had families to support as well, and inevitably that person had to then shut his doors up, and because from that had to declare bankruptcy because of they revoked his motor dealership license.
Well, I think one of the classics is I have to say Little Mick's dealership.
All of them.
Sorry, not his dealership. His Little Mick's tattoo business and all that. I mean, again, he's another very high-profile man who criminal record, I believe.
Exactly. Yep.
He's a worldwide icon. As far as tattooing goes, his artwork is all around the place, internationally recognised, and they have taken his livelihood from him by saying license.
Can I break away on that one too a little bit further?
Mate.
When the law, when some now look, Little Mick could probably correct me if I was wrong on this, but I believe back in the day earlier too, he also helped bring in some legislation for tattooing as well, how to make it more hygienic or something.
Exactly, safety standards. No, you're right.
Yes. So he done all that as well, but then they turned around and said, hey, you're unfit to have a tattoo shop.
Yeah, So they introduced a new licensing system like that, and then decided who was and who wasn't going to get licenses.
Yet he weighed in, and they asked his cooperation in legislating the Tattoo Act, and making things properly done. Then turn around, one hand do that years prior, then on the other hand just go no.
Yeah, look,
it's
certainly.
Not just him, man. It's heaps of businesses, Ben. Look. It's guys I know that have had tow trucks that independently that subcontract to the bigger guys that have had to sell their tow trucks and find employment elsewhere. You know, Sparkies, the electrical trade, all these sort of things. They're saying we're influencing the construction industry. On what evidence or what grounds do they even say this sort of stuff?
Yeah,
you know, and they influence the media that well. And then they have this big propaganda, and it's like a big smoke and mirror effect. People have got to understand this. While they focus in on us and say it's all about this crap, if people were to sit down and read the legislations, nowhere in those legislations does it even name outlaw motorcycle gangs by their name. It just says OMGs. And then this law targets everybody.
I'll just stop you there. Exactly that. That. It's not. They make reference to motorcycle club, to OMGs or whatever, but but the laws actually apply to everybody equally.
100%. So,
and people, you know, like I've said it before, look, it may be the Catholic Church next, it may be Muslims, and look, you'll see it all over Facebook, and we've got some on our page, and I'm probably going to be unpopular here, but I'm going to step out of my comfort zone and just say this: when you say in public, let's hit the Muslims with these laws, let's send all the Muslims back, let's do them for association, or blah blah blah, all you're doing is you're helping the government. They're being divisive, okay? And if we stand up and say yes, the government should use the laws against that minority, well, there's nothing to stop them turning around and using them against your minority. Whether your little subculture is a church group, is a football club, you know, motorcycle clubs are just another subculture, and it may not be your lifestyle, but who the hell are our police force to dictate you know, what lifestyle we should use or we should live? And it's you know, like certainly like the separation of powers has just gone out the window. Except that the pollies and the cops have decided to jump in bed together.
100% that.
Yeah, all right. So have we still got Magic on the line? Magic? Hey, buddy. Look, we're just about to finish up, mate. Look, thanks heaps for your time. And that incident was extremely regrettable. I'm sorry for what happened on behalf of Australians. And hopefully... And look, I'm glad that you've come on and helped draw a bit of light to the situation. And thanks again for joining us.
Well, we were asking where the problem lies and who holds responsibility. You've got to look at the politicians. Our country's being run by morally bankrupt politicians. You know, you see it every day on the news. Campbell Newman was a corrupt politician in Brisbane when he was a council here and his backroom land deals. We've got this case with Barnaby Joyce. You look at Bronwyn Bishop's excesses. You know, when are we going to say enough is enough? When are Australians going to stand up and say, we don't want Liberals, we don't want Labor, they're pigs of the same colour. So you've got to take it where it's needed. You've got to take it at the polls. You've got to take it in your vote. And in regards to New South Wales, it's a New South who is...
Sorry, I've just
Thanks
lost you.
Very much.
Yeah, no worries. No, and you make a good point. Shows on TV and have a look back at the Don Hancocks of the world and the corrupt police and go, yeah, gee, the police used to be corrupt in the 80s and 90s, and yet somehow people trust what's going on now and think, yeah, it's got to be all above board, bikes are all bad, and just let the cops do their thing because they know what they're doing. They don't. And the reason that we have a separation of powers, the reason that we have judges a judiciary, politicians and police as separate entities is so that they can hold each other to account and make sure that our rights as a democratic society, so that us people have our rights protected and defended. And at the moment they're not. They're being eroded. And instead of lapping up the bullshit that we hear on TV about the bikies, what we need to do is have a good hard look and think about what these laws imply, what they mean to us, how they're going to affect us, and we can see from how they're being applied that we cannot just simply put our hand up and say, yeah, let the law come through because that'll protect us. We have to think about the implications if they're abused, because they are frequently abused. And so thanks again, Chris. Sorry, I'm going off on tangents here because this is something I'm really passionate about, guys. Big shout out to all you people that have joined us on Facebook, and we'll probably wrap it up now. But and Jeff from the Angels, thanks for joining us, and maybe we'll have you on again soon, and we'll check out the fallout from all this.
Can I add one thing to the last final comment of all that?
Mate, you can add 5 things if you want. Go for your life.
Hey, just talking on the laws, I believe a lot of these laws are constructed to protect the people who, honestly, are the politicians, these liquor licensing people, the commissioners that sit around this boardroom table, make these laws. And like you said, they're supposed to be accountable to each other. It's like these laws are made up to protect themselves, and they can do what they like, you know? They separate all us people into different categories as they see fit. This country is supposed to be countries to come and live a life. Well, I haven't seen it in the last 4 years.
Well, interestingly enough, I read the Vlad laws, and there's a section in there that says the laws do not apply to police or politicians.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we watch stuff, man. We see police officers selling ice. We see police officers charged with rape. We see police officers charged with fucking child pornography and all this sort of stuff. We see all these sort of things, but yet they are out of the reach of the same laws that they are fucking hitting us with. How is that fair?
Okay, well, the single biggest methamphetamine haul up until about 5 years ago was Mark Standen, who was the head of the Crime and Corruption Commission at the time.
Exactly.
And we go, oh, wow, that's corruption, but we got him. Well, no, you know what? We got one guy charged with something like 44 barrels of precursor chemicals.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I import motorcycles in the country, and I couldn't import 44 barrels on my own. He had help. Did nobody else get charged?
Exactly, 100%. He had help. And where's he housed?
I have no idea. I haven't gone to visit him, mate.
I mean, neither. But like what we're saying, to touch base on that, someone like that does not operate alone.
Yeah. No, exactly. Well, good point. And so, I mean, it's no secret there's corruption out there, and you probably know more about it than what I do. But but the point I'm trying to make is that we can't trust the police to make laws for them, and we can't allow them to apply those laws indiscriminately, because what's happening is they're abusing the rights that they have, and they're moving beyond what is the letter of the law. And quite often they'll come out and they'll draft these laws which are, and the civil libertarians and motorcycle community, if they apply to them, come out and say, hey, look, these laws are unjust, and we're supposed to believe that they won't use them against people that don't deserve to have them used against. So that's just not good enough. The law's got to be the law. It's got to be set fast.
100%. Yep. 100%. Yep.
All right, mate. Have you got anything else before we wrap it up, buddy?
Hey, look, not at all. What I suggest too, and all to listeners and everyone who's joined in and everyone else, they should actually try to read it. Get a copy of the new amended bill for 2016. It's 400 pages of stuff, but a lot of people that are sort of, and I'm not going to say this in a bad way, but some people that don't care or are a little bit uneducated or stuff probably should take the time and have a read of that sort of stuff and educate themselves and understand it, because a bit of knowledge is power. And the more people that understand what's going on in our society, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Educate yourself, people, because you can't trust the shit that the bullshit we're getting fed from the media and what's getting shoved down our throats 100%. At the moment.
Hey, I tell you, Ben, another thing that I found quite interesting, and we knew this for stuff. So every other year that the poker run, or we call it charity ride, has come under, a lot of, we seem to have Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 10. I knew at the start of that run that they weren't there, so I had a very good feeling that we were going to get the attention what we got. Because usually Channel 9, Channel 7, that tail the run too, because they're quite interested in it. This year that we had none of that present, and I knew exactly what. So this was pre-planned, well orchestrated from them. They think we're silly, we didn't know, but we knew. And what does that tell you as well? That speaks volumes as well, doesn't it? They had every intention to do what they were going to do. So
it was orchestrated, and it was clearly coming as a directive from the top. I've just had a message come in from Jeb Ryan. One officer said to me on this run, 1%ers are virtually terrorists.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, so that's what they think. That's their, that's where they're coming from with it.
Yeah, definitely. It astounds me as to where these people have this. These people, so an officer to say that to someone shows me that person is very fucking uneducated, and this person is supposed to be someone that, like you said, you tell your kids if they're in trouble, you go to police officers. That I wouldn't be telling my kids that. No way in the world. Well, you're going to go to someone, that police officer is going to turn around and say, "Oh, your dad's a terrorist" or something like that. Are you kidding me?
No. And, like there's no shortage of comments on the Facebook page saying they would rather if their kids were in trouble, they would rather they went into a motorcycle clubhouse than into a police station.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
I've just got one to read out here. If you just hang with us for a second, Jeff. That's Doc Curran. I am the president of the Vietnam Veterans and Veterans Motorcycle Queensland chapter. We were stopped just before the God Squad clubhouse. So the ride left from God Squad, did it?
It did, mate, yes. Yep.
Yep, okay. So there you go, Christian Motorcycle Club. We're getting told by the politicians that these laws are only going to be used against criminal motorcycle organisations, and we're at the God Squad, Christian Motorcycle Club. That's where the ride started. Okay.
Yep.
Stopped just before the God Squad clubhouse. There was both Maxima and Raptor as well as Feds. I was told that it's going to get worse for clubs like us. If we are caught on runs, we're 1%ers. It's bullshit. We can't go riding anymore without being harassed. So these are just, these are Christian motorcycle clubs that can't enjoy going out and riding their motorcycle without fear of being harassed because the police have taken it upon themselves to decide what's acceptable social behaviour, not law. And let's get this straight. The police aren't there to decide the law. The laws are decided in Parliament by the people that we vote in. We don't vote for the cops. So they should have no say. They've just gone far too big for their fucking jackboots, mate. That's what I reckon.
Yep, 100%, mate. And it shows their abusive powers flat out all day long, threatening people, intimidating people. They say, I've got a bad attitude. You saw that media footage when they first approached me at God Squad there on Green Road. Apparently I've got an attitude, and they said that to everyone, because you're with the 1%ers and because of Jeff giving us a hard time, you're copping this shit. I thought...
You do have a bit of it.
100%, mate. You know what? And everyone can understand if when people know me, I'm very passionate about this sort of shit. Hey, I'm the son of a Vietnam veteran. I'm the son of a fucking World War II veteran, they'll be rolling over in their fucking graves, like having this shit that they fought for, have us sit there and tell us, like, it's not just them. So the Vietnam veterans, the military clubs, the Patriots, the Diggers, all these people come under the same scrutiny. They get hammered on these rides. The police sit there and say, well, they've got this hotline. You need to ring them and tell them what you want to do. Since fucking when?
Yeah, no, exactly. Hey, I've just got a message.
Permission.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's that's exactly. You can see the affront by Magic. Exactly the same thing. I mean, it's right there in your face. Who is this pipsqueak upstart police officer telling a returned veteran, like shoving him in the chest? It's out there. Got a message from Ben Bullock. Big shout out to Benny. He's riding a Hunter motorcycle from Perth, Australia to Perth, Scotland. Ben's also a lawyer and quite up with all the issues. Ben says, so Hells Angels member in Brisbane doesn't have a criminal record, but all bikies are criminals, ? And that's it's a valid point. I know, it's all good and well for us to sit here and say this, but unless you get out there and meet some people, you're not going to know it. But the vast majority of motorcycle club members have jobs, and
we all, mate, 100% we do.
you know, and they're not rich. They're just there's almost exactly the same cross section of class or wealth or whatever you like to call it in motorcycle club as there is in a football club. They're you know, you've got businessmen that have done well for themselves. You've also got guys that struggle to make it from one pay to the next.
Red, I'm on that. I'm a concreter. I've been a concreter. I started concreting around when the time I was 18. I'm 40 now. I'm like everybody else, mate. I've got a mortgage. I've got bills to pay. I've got mouths to feed. I work 5-6 days a week in high risk activity. That's what I do. Along with everyone else that's out there, you know, everyone's got jobs, despite what they like to think about us. And the police, the unfortunate thing about it is, like you touched earlier, you said they have all this technology. They have phone taps, email taps, surveillance, sitting vans outside our houses for days at a time, watching us coming and going. They have all this. They do it. Yet we still come under this scrutiny. It's just blatantly fucking harassment. It's a waste of taxpayers' money, which is a big, big deal. You know, I just don't understand at what point does this get better or is it going to get worse? Who knows? But quite frankly, the politicians, these commissioners, these people that are supposed to be these educated people that are non-biased need to have a good hard think about what they're doing and their object here of running this country.
Well, it's almost like, you know, like, so you and I both know that motorcycle clubs are not criminal organisations, but it's almost like they're trying to force some sort of criminal underground by taking away all your legitimate income streams. So there's they're
trying to almost force you into a life of crime. That's what it's coming down to. So
the wealthier businessman types, not that, you know, super rich, but, you know, like, you know, there's a few guys out there that are self-employed that have done okay for themselves. They've all had their businesses audited, and they got investigated under proceeds of crime. So then again, the onus is on them. They have all their assets seized. The onus on them to prove where how they came about their wealth, and it's pretty bloody hard to do when you have no resources, because you need to lawyer up to do it, and if you got no money, it's pretty hard to lawyer up.
You can't. So and then they win. Basically, I know personally, like I said, I can tell you a million stories that people. So they do that. They seize our assets. They go into your banks and seize your ability to trade. You're able to trade legit. You have wages to pay. You have bills to pay yourself. You've got suppliers to pay. All this stuff that you have to pay. You've got accounts to pay. They freeze your asset, and for months at a time, they just cripple you. That's their game, is disruption, and cripple you in any way, shape, or fashion. That's what they do. I don't know how it's fair. I don't see how it is. Like, I got randomly ordered 7 years in a row, apparently. Randomly ordered. How's that? 7 years. Lucky, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty random.
You know? Yeah. Very random. But these things happen. People don't believe us. And look, at the end of the day, I'm here. We're not crying about what I chose this life and I'll live it. But people got to understand that these laws and all this crap is not just for us. If people think that is, they are delusional. They need to, like I said, educate themselves. They need to read the laws, the legislations, and educate themselves, and then they'll see where we're coming from.
Yeah, no, I agree. Couldn't agree more. Look, we're going to wrap it up there, mate. What I'm going to do...
Awesome. Yep.
I'm going to throw back to that video that the way the shit was going to go down on the ride, and because I think everybody needs to watch this and you know, to enlighten themselves about exactly what's happening and where the directives are coming from, and it's pretty clear. There's one point in the video, and if please look out for it, guys, where Jeff says, if we'll do the right thing and you guys do the right thing, and then the cop says, we can't do that. We're planning on doing the wrong thing, and it's pretty bloody clear in the video.
100% it is. Yeah.
Yep, we're gonna play out with this video. Thanks all for joining us, and all the comments. Big shout out to everybody. I didn't get a chance to really say howdy to everybody because there's a fair bit going on here. But Jeff, thanks again for joining us, and hopefully we can talk soon, and we'll check it out.
These are the ground rules. New South Wales. Yep. Okay. There will be a VCP set up where you'll be tested, breath tested. Right, you'll have all your bikes examined. Okay. If there's 1%ers with you, they've already been told that they won't be allowed in any pubs outside of the border.
That's cool.
Okay. If there's a fundraising occur and there's no fundraising authority with it, we can seize any profit or any prize that goes with that if you don't have the proper authority to fundraise. Okay.
What do you mean by that, though?
Well, mate, I'll tell you, but just drop the attitude a bit.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, what do you mean by that?
In New South Wales, you have to have an authority to fundraise.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't have it, then you can't fundraise in New South Wales.
Okay. So we're not doing that anyway, then.
Okay. So if you're not doing it, then it's fine.
Yep.
All right. But if it happens in New South Wales, we have the power to seize anything in relation to that fundraising.
Yep.
Okay. And anything in relation to prizes or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right. This is all us saying.
Yep.
If you want to come across the border.
Yep.
This is what's going to happen.
Cool.
Okay. In New South Wales, we obviously have very different legislation.
Of course, yeah.
And we intend to enforce that, especially if there's 1%ers within your group. If there's not 1%ers within your group, you'll probably find that we will not be
as forceful. Yeah, cool.
Involved in anything.
Yeah, righto.
As soon as we see colours, our boss is saying there are no runs in New South Wales. Okay? If there's 1%ers in your group, everyone will be treated as 1%ers. If there's no 1%ers in your group, you'll pretty much you'll get stopped, you'll get breath tested, you'll be on your way.
And what if there are?
Then everyone will get treated the same. Everyone will get drug tested, everyone will get breath tested, everyone's bike will get...
Everyone's clean anyway, so it doesn't matter. You can do that. You can do that.
I'm telling you.
You got to do what you got to do.
All right,
everyone's bike. Letting you know what we intend
You got to do. You got to do what you got to do, all right? And we're going to do what we're going to do.
That's cool. Yep.
So we'll be fair. You be fair.
Yep.
Well,
that's fine.
Well, that's what we're saying. There will be a different level. If there's 1%ers there...
Well, there is. I'm telling you.
Okay, well then...
So do what you need to do with us.
Okay, because
that's cool.
From the commanders of New South Wales, we don't want runs in our state. Okay?
Oh, unlucky.
Unlucky? Okay, well then you will feel the full force of the consorting law and everyone will be searched.
That's cool.
Okay?
That's fine. You've got to do what you've got to do,
From
right?
a Queensland perspective, we will enforce all traffic laws.
Yep.
Okay, in this state.
We know that.
You're required to stop at every red light.
We know that.
Okay.
Yep, cool. Everyone's been told, been advertised on the things, don't bring dodgy bikes, no helmets, all that shit, right?
Yep.
So we know.
Yep,
it's cool.
fine.
If people are doing it, grab them.
Yep, that's fine.
Whatever you got to do.
Just do the right thing and advise you guys before you kick off.
Yeah,
okay?
it's cool. Whatever you've got.
Provisions of the Road Transport Act. I'm giving you a direction to stay next to your motorcycles. Do not leave your motorcycles.
I know G.I. Jane, mate. Fuck off.
You're not intimidated. Don't worry about it.
Oh, could have been. My feelings could have been.
It's all about safety for us and for you guys.
I left them at home, so it's all right.
Mate, it's a license, rego, breath tests. They're going to go through your bikes.
Do whatever you
Make
want.
sure that they're all legal.
Yeah, do it. Cool, it is what it is.
I can